Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivara Dari Jaya Girivara Dari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivara Dari Jaya Girivara Dari Jaya Yamuna. What's happening? Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravadachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravadachari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Good morning, dear devotees. This morning's Bhagavatam class is Canto 3, Chapter 14, Verse 41. The chapter is entitled Pregnancy of Diti in the Evening. As we wait for the verse to come up, okay. Please repeat after me. We'll do word for word. Tada Vishva Ishvaraha Krudaha Bhagavan Loka Bhavanaha Hanisyati Avitirya Ashu Yatha Adrin Sataparvadrik Tada Vishva Ishvara Krudha Bhagavan Loka Bhavana Anisyati Avitirya Ashu Yatha Adrin Sata Parvadrek Tada Vishwa Ishvara Krudha Bhagavan Loka Bhavana Hanishyati Avitrya Ashu Yatha Adrin Sata Parvadrek Tata Vishweshvara Krudo Bhavan Loka Bhavana Nishati Avidyasu Shati Avitirasho Tadrin Sataparvadre Tada Vishweshvara Krudo Bhagwan Loka Bhavana Tadrin Sataparvadre Tada Vishweshvara Krudo Bhagavan Loka Bhavana Anishati Abhityaso Etadrin Sataparvadre. Ladies? Tada Vishweshvara Krudo Bhagavan Loka Bhavana Vishweshvara Krudo Bhagavan Loka Bhavana Tada, at that time, Vishwa Ishvaraha, the Lord of the universe, Krudaha, in great anger, Bhagavan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Loka Bhavanaha, desiring the welfare of the people in general, Hanyashipti, will kill, Avitirya, descending himself, Asho, he, Yatha, as if, Adrin, the mountains, Sata Parvadrik, the controller of the thunderbolt, Indra. Translation. At that time, the Lord of the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the well-wisher of all living entities, will descend and kill them, just as Indra smashes the mountains with his thunderbolts. Please repeat after me. At that time, the Lord of the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the well-wisher of all living entities, will descend and kill them, just as Indra smashes the mountains with his thunderbolts. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. As in the Bhagavad Gita 4.8, the Lord descends as an incarnation to deliver the devotees and kill the miscreants. The Lord of the universe and of everything, Shri Shri Radha Gokulananda, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman, Gaur Nitai Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord descends as an incarnation to deliver the devotees and kill the miscreants. The Lord of the universe and of everything would appear to kill the sons of Diti because of their offending the devotees of the Lord. There are many agents of the Lord, such as Indra, Chandra, Varuna, Goddess Durga and Kali, who can chastise any formidable miscreants in the world. The example of mountains being smashed by thunderbolt is very appropriate. The mountain is considered the most strongly built body within the universe, yet it can be easily smashed by the arrangement of the Supreme Lord. The Supreme Personality of Godhead does not need to descend in order to kill any strongly built body. He comes down for the sake of his devotees. Everyone is subject to the miseries offered by material nature, but because the activities of the miscreants, such as killing innocent people and animals, or torturing women, are harmful to everyone and are therefore a source of pain for the devotees, the Lord comes down. He descends only to give relief to his ardent devotees. The killing of the miscreants by the Lord is also the mercy of the Lord towards the miscreant, although apparently the Lord takes the side of the devotee. Since the Lord is absolute, there's no difference between his activities of killing the miscreants and favoring the devotees. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Pistaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devam Gauravani Pacharine Nivishesha Sunyavadi Pashtadesthane Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Shri Gadadhar Shivas Gaura Bhaktivinoda. Hare Krishna Krishna Please say it with me. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Panchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhyeva cha patitanam pavanabhyo vaishnavyo namo namah. So let's just go back to the verse. At the time the Lord of the universe, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the well-wisher of all living entities, will descend and kill them, just as Indra smashes the mountains with his thunderbolts. So today's Bhagavatam class is sobering, and it's in some ways deeply hopeful. It shows how disturbance is born, first inside through our desires, and how the Lord remains our well-wisher even when we're corrected or we're going through storms. Now, to hear this verse properly, and we've been hearing about Diti and her desires, and she's overwhelmed by them, and then of course an act is undertaken which is forbidden, and then one may actually even question, well, Kashyapa is also culpable in all of this, and we can get into the whole conversation of this. But before we actually go into the verse, I think it would be proper to actually just go a bit broad, deep, and then back into the verse. So to properly hear this, who's the person receiving this wisdom? Anybody know? Could be, yes. And before that, at the beginning of the chapter? Vidura, that's right, yes. So Vidura, he's hearing this, we know, if you don't know, Vidura is the prime minister, he's the advisor, he's the wise minister of Hastinapur, and he's providing robust counsel to Dhritarashtra, despite being ignored by Dhritarashtra for the favor of Duryodhana. We know that Vidura is the personification of Yamaraj, and he was actually one of the few people who actually spoke up at Draupadi's humiliation. He's the voice of Dharma, and so he's very well suited to know what's right and wrong, black and white, good and bad. And Vidura's actually, his ethical maxims on governance, morality, and justice are constantly delivered to King Dhritarashtra. He was the protector of the Pandavas, he was a mediator of peace, and he was a non-participant in the war. But he got more and more frustrated at this unjust war. And what he was really the voice, the conscience, the inner conscience of the Kuru dynasty. Now, Vidura he's actually on pilgrimage, right? He's had enough. He's been giving good counsel. And, for years and years and years, he's been ignored. In fact, the time that the 100 Kauravas were born, there were terrible omens. And at that time, he wanted to kind of cut it at the beginning, the root of what might become quite destructive. But he was ignored. He was ignored by Dhritarashtra. And the problem is that sometimes we give counsel when it's not invited. It might not be our place. But for Vidura, it was his place. And time again, he kept giving the right advice. But in the end, Dhritarashtra just got more and more stubborn. And, of course, Duryodhana resisted and became hostile. So in the end, Vidura's counsel kind of fell flat onto the ground. It was ignored, he was insulted and sidelined, so he's kind of walked away. And now he's, at the beginning of this chapter, he's really, he's in pain because he thinks that had they taken his wise counsel, they could have averted the war, the pain, all of that everyone was going through. Yet, they kind of just refused it. And later on in the chapter, Prabhupada says that because of Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra's deep attachment, the Vegams, even with Diti and Kashyapa, the Vegams are pushing our desires. The Nectar of Instruction, Rupa Goswami talks about Vachu Vegam, Manash Vegam, Krodha Vegam. So the pulls, the pushes can overtake us. And certainly in Diti's case, she was absolutely overwhelmed by her desires. Where did they come from? Sense of insecurity. Look, I'm one of the queens as well. How come I don't have a child? Maybe there's something wrong with me. So when our insecurities come up, what happens is we start indulging in them. And here you can see the forces. And Vidura is really, he's at the beginning, he's saying, I really want to listen to more. And he makes this vow. The vow is that he can see Kashyapa giving good counsel to Diti. But unfortunately, she's not able to take it. And later on, what we'll do is we'll uncover and unpack what that means for us. So here, Vidura is kind of quite interested. What's really going on here? Now, Kashyapa walks away eventually, but also Vidura. And leaving isn't always escapism, it's dharma, because sometimes we're required to walk away from the chaos. And this is something that Vidura did. Now, Vidura could have kind of just gone off and sulked and thought, well, these people are terrible, they didn't listen, only misfortune will fall on them. But no, what he did was he went on pilgrimage, and he began absorbing himself into, with other devotees, the pastimes of the Lord. And that should give us an indication that if we're going through a difficult time, dear devotees, try not to engage in the rights and wrongs, although it's so easily done, because the false ego tells us, this was right, that was wrong, and we begin analyzing it. But here, he's taken shelter of the Supreme Lord and the devotees. So, the pregnancy of deity in the evening shows us a few things about time. It tells us about regulation and self-control, and these are the challenges of existing in the material world. And when one is unregulated, the impulses unleash themselves with often very negative consequences. So, as Vidura is hearing these narrations, he's folding his hands, he's getting, the thing is, for us, what I'm trying to emphasize is that a wounded heart often wants to reach for control or distraction or revenge. But Vidura has absorbed himself in katha. And this is bhakti intelligence, dear devotees. When we're in pain, we take shelter of the devotees and we work on our own purification. So the question to you is, when did I feel powerless? And did I reach out firstly for trying to control the situation, complain, or did I absorb myself in katha? So as we enter now into the chapter's warning, the desire for Aditi becomes very urgent, and the timing is ignored, because Kashyapa tells her this is not the right time. At Sandhya time, Lord Shiva's followers, they're really rife, and when we undertake any sinful activities, this is the time for them to enter. Here, they're entering into the womb. So the process of gratification at an improper time causes not just challenges for oneself, but it disturbs the peace of others. So Bhagavatam is showing us, as Rupa Goswami said, the forces that are impulse-driven, the restless mind, it's demanding this immediate gratification. And Kashyapa, so, Diti personifies that. And Kashyapa, what does Kashyapa embody? Anybody know? His dharmic formed intelligence. Yeah, he's speaking to Diti, it's very dharmic. He knows what's right and wrong, but he becomes compromised under pressure. And this is what happens when the mind and the intelligence are kind of grappling. The only source of solution is to actually absorb oneself in the Supreme Lord, His pastimes, and remembering them. So now Diti is bearing this heavy responsibility despite the warning, and Kashyapa is still culpable in some way, because, having knowledge without restraint is insufficient. Now, together, they show that if we have this urgency, overrules our discernment. So when we're making decisions, this is something we want to be thinking about. Our private desires, how do they, or how can they become public harm? So when desires drive, the intelligence can yield, and the consequences, of course, are beyond ourself. Now, as Rupa Goswami says, the sober person who can tolerate and hold back one's speech, the mind, the anger, the tongue, the belly, the genitals is qualified to make disciples across the world. So this isn't about repression, it's about regulation. And, with Diti, it's just not desire alone, it's the desire with the wings. Basically she's so overwhelmed by this sensual urge, she is not able to, even though she knows that this is wrong and something bad will come out of it, as she cannot help herself. Now, we can, at the grossest level, say, well, Diti, a woman, she's, quite lusty. Kashyapa, he's a good man. He's added intelligence, but he was overwhelmed. The whole thing about butter and fire and all of that. But actually, at another level, we can see with compassion that when somebody is suffering and they focus on that suffering as she was, she's overtaken by the senses. And then at a highest level, what we can see is that the Supreme Lord is in charge. He's the cause of all causes. He is Brahman, he's Paramatma, he's Bhagavan, as Srila Prabhupada tells us in the purport. So nothing can happen without the Lord's sanction. And we know that through the churning of the ocean, where prior to that the demons are reigning and the Lord tells the demigods, bide your time. So for us as devotees, if we're going through a difficult situation, sometimes you have to bide your time, sometimes you have to use intelligence and walk away. But of course we do it through Guru, Sadhu and Shastra. So knowing that the Supreme Lord is the cause of all causes, nothing happens without him, then we have to find and search him. And here Srila Prabhupada tells us whether one gets punished or the Lord descends himself or he sends his representatives. There's no difference, because part of this is about the bigger plan. What's the bigger plan? The bigger plan is that in what sounds like very dark and no good can come out of it, only good comes out of it. Why? Because of this incident, the Lord descends himself 3 times as Varaha. The Lord's beautiful pastimes at Lord Varaha. You worship Lord Varaha if you want to overcome envy within the heart. And then the Lord appears as to annihilate Hiranyakashipu as Lord Nrsingadev. And then later on, the Lord appears to Bali Maharaj as Vamana. So some great things come out of that. And from that, obviously, Diti, she cannot be condemned. She goes and repents, so does Kashyapa. And they're given this boon that from this, there will be devotees in the family. So, yes, outwardly it looks like it was a forbidden act, but they go back to Godhead. Simply due to her grandson Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj. So here we're talking about the Mahajans Vidura, we're talking about Prahlad Maharaj, we're talking about Bali Maharaj. Isn't there so much wonderful things to talk about and discuss? So my question to you all is, how many discussions are going on about this subject matter? How many discussions are going on? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, so we can be kind of reflecting on it. When we're thinking about the discussions, there's Vidura and Maitreya, there's Sutta Goswami, there's Sukadev Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj, there's Diti and Kashyapa, there's probably us in the room having this discussion, and maybe after breakfast we may decide which part of the conversation we want to look at, the condemnation of Diti, or do we want to look at compassion, or do we want to look at the greatness of the Supreme Lord, that sometimes what appears really bad, actually only good can come from it. So the unregulated vegams, speech wounds hearts, anger can poison relationships, the mind, the urge to spread fear and suspicion, the belly, the tongue, destabilizes our health and mood, and the sensual urges without governance can destabilize families and communities. So this is something that is a takeaway for us, and an explicit takeaway. So unregulated impulse is like fire without permission to spread. Shall I repeat that again? Unregulated impulse is like fire without permission to spread. It'll spread. It'll just take over. So the safety warning is, about our own, we mustn't become overconfident when we're actually hearing about these pastimes, because the judge within us, or the ego in us, goes, I'm Indra and I'll cut off the wings, I'll show that person what to do, that they're the problem if we're experiencing these challenges in our own lives, but I'm pure. Or repression is mistaken for spirituality. And of course, the biggest impediment is sex life. So here, dear devotees, it's not about repression, it's really about regulation. Right, let's come back to the mountains. Why is it that all of a sudden we're discussing mountains? Anybody know? Mountains with wings? Yeah? Go on. In Ramayana, yeah?
Sages asked, wouldn't those mountains flying away?
Yeah.
And
Yes, that's right. So the mountains were empowered in Ramayana. They could just get up, they had wings, they'd fly, and they would just plonk themselves anywhere. But of course they were empowered to do that. But what were they doing? They were misusing those that gift they had, because they were crushing people. And so in the end, of course, Indra has to do something about it, and he cuts off their wings. And this is what happens, in the case of Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha. They've got the wings, they're empowered, and they misuse them. And it's only a matter of time before the Lord then intervenes. What's beautiful here, Srila Prabhupada tells us that the Lord doesn't have to come and sort out some of these challenges. He sends his devotees. But when does the Lord come down? Sorry? To protect the devotees. So what does that tell you about the Lord? He has an invested relationship with his devotees. Something that's absolutely intolerable for the Lord is to see his devotees suffer. So the mountains are corrected, and stopping them causing devastation. So in our daily lives, what are our unchecked wings, and how do we, what little power that we think we may have, how are we harming others, maybe not even realizing it? Let's go back to the purport and unpick some of the key things that Srila Prabhupada is telling us. So the verse 4.8, Paritranayam sadhunam vinashaya duskritam. Srila Prabhupada is telling us that, as you quite rightly said, the Lord descends to deliver the devotees and to kill the miscreants. Now, Diti's sons were offending the devotees of the Lord. And which devotees were offended? Or which devotees were abused? Prahlad Maharaj? That was, yes.
His sons,
That's right. And what about with Hiranyaksha? Bhumi Devi, yeah. I mean, there's only so much, a devotee. In the end, I suppose this is telling us that when devotees are particularly suffering at the hands of somebody who is so driven by their own their lust and their desires, it becomes very problematic. So I just wanted to deconstruct what kind of a person, like Hiranyaksha and Hiranyakashipu, what drives them to want that power and to exert that power by force?
Insecurity.
Yes, insecurity. Can you elaborate a bit more? Why?
There's always like a tendency that they feel somewhere harmed and they're looking for. They feel vulnerable, but they try to get like Kamsa.
I'm so sorry to interrupt you, Prabhu. Do you have that on you? Could you be so kind to share that? It's no good sitting on the microphone, dear devotees. Go ahead, please, Prabhu. Could you start from the beginning?
So, because of insecurity, they feel, they have to, like they said, best defense is attack. So, due to insecurity, I feel that somebody will overpower them if they don't act in time. Like Kamsa, he knew Vishnu cannot be killed, but they have to kill them. He cannot be killed, but I have to kill them. I'm most powerful. I have to, so it's just kind of fear interferes. That's all.
Thank you. Yes, it's insecurity, dear devotees. So the question we have to ask ourselves is, do I have insecurities? Because they're going to get in the way of my spiritual life. They're going to get in the way of my progress. So yes, fear, not being enough, not being good enough. Sometimes they're rooted in our childhood traumas. Somebody who has to prove a point, somebody who has to be the best, somebody who really needs to exert their authority, because then that is a safe place for them. But really, spiritually, it's not a safe place. Please don't wait to be asked, just do it straight away.
There's another enemy too, it's envy.
What is the enemy?
Envy.
Envy.
There's, you found it with the Pandavas and Dhritarashtra and all that. Their envy destroyed them, actually.
So let's go back to Vidura then, because Vidura, he's been giving them good counsel. They've had the Supreme Lord around them. They've had so much good, but why is it that none of that, Vidura was not able to modify their behavior? Anybody? Why is it that when somebody is so driven by envy or insecurity, that no matter what counsel that you give them, if you're rightly positioned to do that, it's still unable to modify behavior? What is it, dear devotees? This is very instructional for us, because if you are Shishivada Gokulananda, Sitaram Lakshman Hanuman, Srila Prabhupada, Gaurnitai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. There's a request there.
I feel that even if they might have good instruction, they might just still be hungry for that attention or that power. So no good counsel will help them. There's just a real thirst inside to be fulfilled, but it's just, so it doesn't really work.
Yeah, and it's like Diti, isn't she? She's had the good counsel, her husband saying, no, not right now, it's not the right moment, but she's just so overwhelmed. And this is the problem. So, how do we discern ourselves if we find ourselves in a situation, in a service or in a family situation or a work situation, where somebody is so hell-bent driven on their own, on their own sense of self, wanting to prove themselves, or maybe we've done it. Maybe we've done it ourselves. Let's put ourselves in the position of Diti. What's the remedy? What's the remedy, dear devotees? Diti, Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana, they've had the good counsel. What is the remedy? Is there a remedy?
Introspect before you do something. That is
Okay, there's about 3 or 4 people, so this gets me very excited.
introspect.
Introspect.
Yeah.
But how can you introspect if the urge and the power is so strong? I mean, there's no sense of good counsel. You can't even introspect because the urges are driving you. Good, go, but what else? And then there's the ladies.
Just on that point, we have to ensure, like before the punch comes, we have to be ready before it's coming. So.
And how do you get ready for the desires, the vegams, the pushes?
When the desire is not there, you work on it by.
Yes. Before the desires come, you work on it, absolutely. So that's regulation, isn't it? That by listening to the stories of the Bhagavatam, we can deduce that, not that I sit there and think it's never going to happen to me. It is going to happen, dear devotees, because this is about pattern, time, and what is, we're all in it. So yes, absolutely.
I think, I hope I've got this right. Are we thinking of somebody imposing their pride and their greed and their whatever they want in the world onto you? So how would you manage that?
Yes, I mean, we've moved on to that. We've moved on that.
Yeah.
Actually, yes, you're right. There's 2 points here. There is Vidura, and he's absolutely frustrated. Kashyapa's frustrated, and how does he manage that? What we're told here, that if your intelligence, if you're not able to reason with that and you're overpowered, either you walk away or you tolerate it, or somehow or another the Supreme Lord will intervene, and that, or the Lord's devotees. So we know that. So we know that tolerance and patience are really important. But if the milk is touched by the lips of a serpent, and you know that milk's going to poison somebody, what do you do then? Do you just wait patiently and tolerate, or do you have to say something? Well, Vidura was trying to do that, wasn't he? But not to great effect.
I think one should step forward and take action.
Right. And yes,
If
absolutely.
you see something going wrong,
Yeah.
this poison is being spread,
Yeah.
as it is in the modern living world.
Yes, and sometimes if you're in the right place, I mean, I can tell you a story 80 years back in Surat, in Gujarat, where my grandmother asked my auntie to look after the sweet rice. And when you're cooking for lots and lots of people, it's usually done in the orchard. And so the orchard was set up, and my aunt, who absolutely loves sweet rice, she was the contender of all the siblings to look after the sweet rice. As she was looking after the sweet rice, it came out amazing. It was offered to the lordships, and all the guests ate the sweet rice, and they licked their lips, and they said it was absolutely amazing. However, my grandmother, she was a bit baffled, because she thought the person who's cooked it is the one who absolutely loves sweet rice, but she never touched it. So why was that? So my grandmother probed her daughter Nandu and said, Nandu, you love sweet rice. It was amazing. Everybody loved it. Why didn't you eat it? So Nanda stayed quiet for a while, and then she couldn't help herself, and then she was, being the honest girl she is, she said, well, I was happily stirring the sweet rice, making sure it didn't stick, but a frog jumped in. So when the frog jumped in, she had a dilemma, didn't she? What do I do? So this little 8 or 10-year-old girl scoops out the frog, chucks it into the bushes, and doesn't speak a word. The boys are laughing because they've done something like that, I bet. Anyway, my grandmother was angry. She was really, really angry. She said to Nandu, do you know somebody could have died? It was better for you to have been honest, and we could have thrown away those gallons and gallons of milk and sugar and rice than to have actually risked people dying. I mean, the whole family, the whole village would have been poisoned. So yes, Mother, your point about speaking up, I think, was the moral of the lesson, that, you know, when there is... But then if you speak up and nothing happens, or you're not able to modify, or things are not, then the devotee waits patiently and sees this as the Lord's great plan. I'm going to stop here. I thought I must tell you this story. It kind of just popped out when, you know, what do you do in this situation, you know? Something that is tinged, you want to stay far away from that. And that, the sweet rice or the milk touched by a serpent, is actually very instructional for us. Any questions, dear devotees?
Hare Krishna. One question around those flying mountains.
Yes.
If mountains can fly, does that mean that mountains are living entities? Is there any reference of that?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. I think somewhere in the Bhagavatam it talks about that life, the animate and inanimate. We know scientifically that, well, forget scientifically, which is the greatest mountain?
Meru Parvat.
Giriraj. Namaste Girirajaya Shri Govardhan Namine Ashesh Klesh Nashaya Paramanandayine. That, you know, Giriraj is there, and we speak to Giriraj, and Giriraj engages with us. But scientifically, there's also proven that crystals, minerals, they have life within them.
So then these entities should be there in the 84 lakh species, no? 84 lakh species do not mention mountains. So if these entities are also living, so 84 lakh species should mention mountain as a species.
Maybe. You are a very technical young man, so asking me a very technical question, I'm not sure how I can answer that. But we know that according to Bhagavatams are authority. If Bhagavatam says that mountains are living entities and they could move at their whim, then they can. But of course they've been you know, curtailed in their movement. I hope I've answered your question. Yeah. Yes, Prabhu.
I think recently was a class, I think Doyamore or somebody from Soho. Before, what's his name? He was speaking about like mountains with wings.
Yeah.
Maybe he remembers, but he said that initially, dawn of creation, mountains actually could fly with wings, and then sometimes they would land down, and then kill all species, you know, kill animals, kill sadhus, and then Indra was angry, and then he cut the wings of the mountains. Mm-hmm. So they're living entities. So, and another point, astrologically, that not that all minerals have souls. Some. For example, we have these precious stones which are corresponded to the planets, which can balance. Some of them, like if it's properly powerful stone for your ring or whatever, it must have a soul within, inside, and then he has potency to protect you or whatever. Yeah. So from that, some minerals have souls, some not. Maybe not all mountains are living entities. And maybe they are. And then it's proven that mountains can grow actually, you know. It's not just because of sediment accumulates and then there's a bigger, but they actually can grow. So this is an interesting point, and why I'm not mentioning though this 8,400,000 species. Yeah. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah. I mean, they're inanimate species, aren't they? And even in Arkansas, there are crystals
maybe
that
they mention only those who are how you call it? You cannot say biodegradable, but this kind of species, which are organic, or maybe this is what's mentioned
Yeah.
from this
I mean,
aspect.
coming back to your point, one of the greatest inanimate objects is the Shamantaka jewel and its own potency, where it was creating so much gold and protecting the citizens. So there's enough in the Bhagavatam to tell us about inanimate species, even if they're not included. I mean, I don't know that, but I can only go by what Bhagavatam
Somewhere in Vedas is mentioned most probably, but so vast literature that is interesting, very interesting.
Yeah. The Lord's creation, the Lord Himself is so mystical, incomprehensible.
Since we want to know things, then somebody may, take a journey to investigate, to try to find answers for that is interesting.
Yeah, but the Bhagavatam's already giving us some of those, aren't they? That they are living entities. They are moving. They, the Shamantaka jewel.
You mentioned unmoving living entities. These are stone minerals.
Well, we also know in when we go to Govardhan, we shouldn't pick up the stones there. Partly they could be Giriraj, but they could also be the life of some sages that live in these stones. So we have to be very, very careful what we pick up as well. Did you have a question? Anybody? No? Okay. All right. So we'll stop there. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Very nice class. Very